Friends, Brian here for Yes You Can Play Guitar. You know what? Happy 2023 to you. We are in a new year. My biggest challenge will be to remember, if I'm writing down the date, to not write 2022, you know what I'm saying? So I have a very interesting video suggestion request, kind of, from a friend of mine, and he's a Patreon, so his request shall be heard. His name is Keith. He's a friend, and he sent me something really interesting. Apparently Guitar Player magazine recently posted a list of the top 50 rhythm guitar players. Now, of course, we tend to pay more attention to lead guitar players, but rhythm is very important because you want to be able to play in time and really kick a good groove. So, now there's 50, and you know, we don't want to make a video that's 6 hours long. So, if I have something to say, I'll be saying it. For some that I feel there isn't as much to say, I'm probably going to skim through them quite quickly. So, let's check this out, shall we? Guitar Player, which is a magazine. I have many editions of that from the 80s and the 90s. But here's their online. The 50 greatest rhythm guitar players of all time. Okay, let's check it out. 50, Chuck Berry. Of course, yes. The one and only Chuck Berry. Sadly, Chuck got into some trouble with some stuff, and I made the mistake of reading about it, and sometimes things can not be unread and not be unseen, but nonetheless, he was a pioneer and an inventor on the guitar, and yeah, I could definitely see him being on this list. Lindsey Buckingham. Okay, Lindsey Buckingham. So, we all know the band Fleetwood Mac. Every time I think of Lindsey Buckingham, I always think of that song. Is it Holiday Road? The beginning of Vacation. Do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do. Anyway, yes, absolutely. He, being on this list for sure. Makes sense. Great songwriter as well. Maybelle Carter, okay? All right. I've heard the name, remotely familiar with her playing. Don't have too much to say about it. Catfish Collins, same kind of thing from years ago, but he was with James Brown's band. So I'm sure if you look at some of the most amazing rhythm playings, a lot of it's in some of those funk players, man. I've said that many times in many videos. I am in awe of great funk guitar players. Okay, Steve Cropper. Okay, I remember him, reading about him in the magazines and reading some stuff on him. Definitely great player. Bo Diddley. Yeah, Bo knows. Bo knows. Okay, I can see that. Lonnie Donegan. Cornell Dupree. The Edge. Okay, this is getting interesting because The Edge, we all know him from the band U2. What I always found interesting with The Edge was his use of what's called the delay effect. Now, delay is when you hit a note and there's a repeat programmed. And he is the master at that. You know, a good example of that would be the intro to Where the Streets Have No Name. Okay? Played by itself without that effect, you know, it's cool, but it's not the most remarkable line. But when you add that effect to it, it just makes it into this most amazing, epic piece. So The Edge, when I think of The Edge, I always think of how amazing he is using the delay effect. And he is quite good at it and with layering it and everything. So, okay. Don Everly of the Everly Brothers. Okay. Yeah, okay. They had their place in history too, right? The Funk Brothers. Okay. Joe Gilberto. Freddie Green. Okay, so now we're getting into some jazz here. Okay, I can definitely see that. Jim Hall. Okay, again, we're getting into some jazz area. Of course, a lot of amazing rhythm players in jazz. Okay. If you ever want to humble yourself, get out a basic jazz textbook. Study from that for a few months. It'll knock you down a few pegs, believe me. Richie Havens, absolutely. I did a reaction video. He's passed away, but I think it was from 2009, or was it Woodstock 2014 or something? But Freedom, I believe, was that the song? Absolutely. Great rhythm guitar player, for sure. Jimi Hendrix. Any of these polls, you know that Jimi Hendrix is going to be there. I'm not going to spend any more time on that. But of course, Jimi Hendrix is there. James Hetfield, yes, for all the metal guys out there, James Hetfield is an innovator, and he is an amazing riff writer, songwriter. Whatever you think of some of the later Metallica stuff, again, I'm going to be one of those guys. I was a Metallica fan in the 80s, very early 90s, and then I kind of got lost with them after that, but I'm very happy for them and their success. We did a video recently where apparently Metallica has released their new VIP packages for their upcoming tour, and they have one that's $7,200 American of US dollars called the Lux Eterna package. And I just posted a video, said, hey, would you pay that to meet Metallica? I personally wouldn't. I wouldn't pay that to meet anybody. I don't care if it's the president, the prime minister, or the pope. But nonetheless, if you can afford it and you want to, hey, go for it. But definitely, amazing rhythm player, great songwriter, and amazing right hand for playing guitar. Very metronomically awesome. Chrissie Hynde, The Pretenders. I knew she played guitar, but I always thought of her more as a singer, and the attitude she has when she sang was always kind of cool. So I can't really comment. I don't really know much about her as a rhythm player. Tony Iommi, Black Sabbath, yes. We don't even have to go there, okay? It's Tony Iommi, man. One of the greatest riff meisters of all time. All metal players must pay him a homage. Let's do that now for a second. Okay, carrying on. Danny Kortchmar. Easier to play a screamer solo over heavy groove than it is to make that groove. Okay, he's played with a bunch of different people. I don't know if he's a session musician. I've heard the name. Looks like he's played with James Taylor, Jackson Browne, Linda Ronstadt, Don Henley, Bonnie Raitt. So, that's cool. I don't know much about him, but he's played with some big heavyweights there. That's great. Alex Lifeson of Rush. Yes! Abso-frickin-lutely. Alex Lifeson, I'm telling you, is one of the most underrated guitar players of all time. And songwriter. Listen to La Villa Strangiato. I think personally, Rush, the late, great Neil Peart always gets kind of most of the fanfare, I think, maybe. There's some Rush fans out there that might disagree. Maybe it's Geddy. But yeah, Alex is amazing. He's an amazing guitar player. Man, I'd love to sit down and jam with him sometime. Interview idea. I'm going to write that down. Thank you, guitar player. Thank you, Keith. Tony Maiden. Okay. Okay, so he's with Chaka Khan. Okay. I don't know a lot about him, but again, if he is, they're saying he was a great funk player. Those funk players are amazing, and they have amazing senses of rhythm for sure. I am in awe of great funk players. Bob Marley. Okay. All right. 27, Johnny Marr. Okay, so the Smiths band, I remember seeing a lot of stuff on Johnny Marr in the magazines. I remember he was on the cover of Guitar Player magazine in the late 80s. I have that edition. I really like some of the Smiths stuff. How Soon Is Now is an amazing, I'm not going to say one of the greatest, but it's a great song. I love it. He kind of has his own style, and yeah, I could see him being on the list for sure. No debating that. But cool. Curtis Mayfield. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Played in F-sharp tuning. Okay. Sublime Mob. Okay. Yeah, he kind of had his own thing going. Don't know a ton about Curtis Mayfield, but I do remember him and his playing. Al McKay. Again, we're getting back into the funk guitar, right? So, I'm not going to argue that. Tom Morello. So I've had some requests to do reaction videos to Rage Against the Machine, and how do I choose my words carefully? Tom Morello can play. He's got some chops. He can play. But that band and I don't know, there's just something about it that just never really grabbed me. I don't know what it is, and I don't mean to put him down. It's just maybe it's my own taste or whatever, but that band, I just didn't really get that band. I didn't get some of the stuff he did. He was creative. He was an innovator. I don't know. Just wasn't too into them. I don't know. I think I could debate him being in the top 50, but that's just me. Leo Nocentelli. Okay. Again, we're getting into funk guitar again here. Okay. I'm somewhat familiar with the name. Not crazy. Okay, so who's he played with? Patti LaBelle, Robert Palmer. Funk, you can't argue that. Some great funk guitar players out there and amazing rhythm players. Jimmy Nolan, okay. Again, old-time funk guitar player. Jimmy Page. Again, a lot of these polls, you know Jimmy Page is going to be on those lists, just like Jimi Hendrix. Okay. All right. Joe Pass, definitely. I am a fan of Joe Pass and his guitar playing. Les Paul, I knew he'd be there. Joe Perry with Aerosmith. Why not Brad Whitford, though? Aerosmith was one of those bands when they, you know, when I was starting to come of age, somewhat, in '86. That's when I got my first guitar, by the way. That video for Run DMC and Aerosmith doing that version of Walk This Way played all the time on the video shows that were out there, and it was on the radio all the time. So I kind of, Aerosmith, I had an interesting take on Aerosmith. It's just like we got overexposed to them in the late 80s, early 90s, and I was just kind of like, oh man, don't force this down my throat anymore. But since then, I kind of really got into the album Toys in the Attic from Aerosmith. They had some great stuff. Should Joe Perry be in the top 50? I don't know. 17, here we go. We got Prince. You guys know I did a very big deep dive on Prince last year and have more Prince stuff to go through in the new year. Some of the followers of my channel are Prince fans, and I got to tell you, they're among the coolest, sweetest, most generous people. He is an amazing rhythm guitar player. I made a joke once in a discussion I had about Prince, about how he is and how he would be to work for. And if I got a chance to audition for him, he would look at me and my funk playing and say, put his guitar down and say, okay, you got to go, man. Awesome rhythm player. Definitely should be in the top 50 for sure. Johnny Ramone. Well, the Ramones definitely have their place with music. Again, guys, I did a review of the Sex Pistols, a reaction request some time ago. I've never been a big punk guy, and I know through some of my influences on the heavy side, there's going to be punk influences on that end, but I was just never really into punk music. So for me, I'd probably say it's debatable. Maybe for the whole movement of punk, they should have a rep in the top 50, and I guess it's going to be Johnny Ramone. 16, though? But again, it's like when we look at some of the top guitar players of all time or top league, what's it based on? What's the criteria, right? Jerry Reed, absolutely. Country guitar player, wicked guitar player, no doubt should be in the top 50. Django Reinhardt, again, who can debate that? Okay, dude was playing with two fingers. He was freaking amazing. The king of gypsy jazz, they say. Absolutely. Tony Rice. Yep, he was another great guitar player. I can't argue him. Definitely can't argue him being in the top 50. Keith Richards. Again, this is my own personal opinion, and I'm going to be right up front. Guys, sometimes people like things because it's popular to like things, okay? I haven't always functioned that way. I never got into the Rolling Stones. I'm happy for them and their success, and they obviously have influenced a lot of bands. I think a lot of guitar players in the know would really, I'm not saying Keith Richards shouldn't be in the top 50, but at 12? Like, are we going by technical ability or his, I don't know. But moving on, now Rogers, yep, another great guitar player. Rudolph Schenker. The Scorpions. There's so many great guitar players and metal and hard rock. Like, if you look at the Scorpions, well, Rudolph Schenker was the rhythm guitar player. Look at the lead guitar players they've had in that band, right? They've had Uli John Roth, wicked guitar player. His brother, Michael Schenker's a wicked guitar player. I don't know, Rudolph Schenker at 10, I don't know. But again, this is getting into that thing when you get into these top 100 or top 50, but definitely can't say, great songwriter, great rhythm guitar player, great riff writer for sure. Earl Slick, Carlos Alomar, David Bowie. okay? You know, obviously, I think these guys were kind of studio guys. I'm sure they did well on their own. I don't know a lot about them, so I can't really say. Steve Stevens. I did a reaction video not long ago. It was blocked on YouTube, so it went straight to Patreon. Again, guys, if you ever want to check out my Patreon, you know, check it out for $3 a month. You know, and there's a whole bunch of videos and reactions that I do that you're not going to see on YouTube. It was Billy Idol. He was, for some reason, he was having technical issues hearing himself. I think, was it doing Eyes Without anyway, Eyes Without a Face, maybe? But Steve Stevens is a wicked guitar player. Yeah, I could definitely see him being in the top 50. Andy Summers from The Police, no doubt. The most painful song I've ever had to learn on guitar is Every Breath You Take, with some of the chord voicings. I did a video shoot about it not long after I started my channel. The videos, it didn't turn out very well, but I'm going to revisit that sometime soon. But yeah, he's done some really cool, innovative stuff, and a great band. Pete Townsend. Yeah, I knew he was going to be in this list. A lot of Who fans out there. Well, great. He definitely has his spot for sure. Eddie Van Halen. You know, Eddie Van Halen gets looked at a lot for his lead playing, but he is a wicked rhythm player too. Listen back to all their old stuff. Look at some of their old live footage. Wicked guitar player all the way around. Jimmy Vaughn. Jimmy Vaughn, I'm definitely glad to see him in this list. You know, even though he was Stevie Ray Vaughan's older brother, he is a wicked guitar player in his own way, and it's nice to see him on that list. I think he deserves it for sure. Alex Weir, Talking Heads, Brothers Johnson. You know what? I don't know. I know the Talking Heads music a bit, more so their hits, but don't know a lot about this person. The Wrecking Crew. Okay, so they played for the Carpenters, to the Beach Boys, to Simon Garfunkel, to the Monkees. Okay, cool, man. Malcolm Young, yes. I am not surprised to see this. You know, a lot of people give AC/DC Angus Young the most attention because he's the most flamboyant on stage, the way he dresses and carries on. Very good at what he does, but I knew this was coming. And I would say a lot of guitar players I've looked up to in the hard rock metal realms have always said they were really influenced by Malcolm Young. I got to tell you guys personally, I've never been a huge AC/DC fan. I have respect for them, and I respect their success, and I just never really got into them. You know, I'd be out hanging with a buddy, or I'd be out somewhere. I've been in bands where I had to do some of their songs. Okay, cool. Or we'll be out somewhere, I'll listen, the song comes on the radio, that's cool. Just, you know, I've never really bought their albums or really got into them too much, but they write some cool tunes, and I'm not surprised. So again, like, you know, the list, there's a lot of great guitar players in this list, but again, it comes down to what's it based on? What's the criteria? Are they just trying to name people from, you know, different genres to make sure different... Jazz was very well represented, and funk was very well represented in this list for sure. So, but this was interesting. I really enjoyed this video. It was different. This is my take on guitar players, top 50 rhythm guitar players of all time. What do you guys think? Comment below. Keep the comments and suggestions coming. Remember to check out my Patreon. And remember, practice hard, but practice smart. We'll see you soon. Happy New Year to you guys. Happy 2023.